Pragmatism in Education, prepared by Saldivares, Master of Education in Curriculum and Instruction. Pragmatism originated from the Greek word pragma, means action or affair. Also, it came from a German word which is pragmatisch, meaning experimental, empirical, and purposive thought based on applying to experience. Different resources have different meanings, but they all have the similar um, connotation to the word pragmatism. From Britannica, priority of action over doctrine, of experience over fixed principles, and it holds that ideas borrow their meanings from their consequences and their truths from their verification. It's more on pragmatism talks about experiences. Okay, according to Austin Klein, the truth of meaning of an idea or a proposition lies in its observable practical consequences rather than any metaphysical attribution. From Stanford University, pragmatism understands knowing the world as inseparable from agency within it. All physical concepts should be tested via scientific experimentation. Then a claim is true if and only if it is useful. So there is the practicality of the truth or of the fact or of the information. In the history of pragmatism, started with John Locke, okay, and then until today. But also in this history, we'll see how pragmatism is used in education. For John Locke, he made different essays and works that contributed to pragmatism. First one is an essay concerning human understanding, 1689. His writing defended modern empiricism and determined the limits of human understanding in respect to a wide spectrum of topics which allow humans to distinguish what can be known and what cannot be known. In his work, Some Thoughts Concerning Education in 1693, justice as respect for the rights of others, civility, liberality, humanity, self-denial, industry, thrift, courage, truthfulness, and a willingness to question prejudice, authority, and the biases of one's own self-interest. He also changed the view on children by regarding them as human beings capable of gradual development of rationality with a guide from their parents. So they were able to have rationalization, but they will be guided by their parents. Parenting should include quality time with the children to then build their character and idiosyncrasies, developing the body and the mind. He emphasized the importance of play as reinforcement and learning language by conversing rather than learning the rules of grammar school. So, this is talking about the experiences of the child as he grows up. He also proposed education for freedom. Education should make people think for themselves, making decisions in their own lives to engage in governing themselves, participate in the government of their country, connections of reasons, freedom, and morality. Reason meaning required for self-development, free from partiality, intolerance, and passion. Can question authority, can lead to fair judgment and action. Next one is William James, the father of modern psychology. Okay, he has different works, the principles of psychology, pragmatism. According to him, truths are made in the course of human experience, and also a pluralistic universe. Neutral monism, there is one fundamental stuff that is neither concept, distort rather than reveal reality. According to him, we carve out everything to serve our human purpose. So it's more of it has an existential nature. Next one is Charles Sander Peirce, founder of American Pragmatism. He introduced abduction, two distinct classes of probable inferences, hypothesis and retroductive inferences. Connection with the problem of drawing conclusion on the basis of taking samples. Systematic procedure for seeking truth is by the use of scientific methods. Deduction, induction, and abduction as phases of the methodology of science. So pragmatism generally is used in the field of science. Scientific method begins with abduction or hypothesis, then proceed to the deduction of conclusion, then to induction by experimental tests. Scientific method as method of overcoming doubts and fixing beliefs. So there's an experiment here wherein we verify if um, if a claim is actually true. Meaning of a clear conception consists in the entire set of its practical consequences. So practical means it can be tested. It's supposed to be reproducible, meaning it can be reproduced, not only for an instant. Or the result is not just an accident. Meaningful conception has experiential cash value, capable of being related to collection of possible empirical observations. His views resembles operationalism and verificationalism, so that's why the need for experiment. Internal realism, science can deal only with phenomena, that is to say, only with what can appear somehow in experience. So if it cannot be experienced, it cannot be hold true. Hegelianism, the sign itself, also called the representamen, is a term in the sign relation that is ordinarily said to represent or mean something. The other term in this relation are called the objects and the interpretant. The object is what would ordinarily would be said to be the thing meant or signified or represented by the sign. What the sign is a sign of. Also, he proposed or started some of the thinking in anti-foundationalist and fallibilist. The only important thing in thinking scientifically to apply the scientific method itself. Although the scientific method will eventually converge to something as a limit, nevertheless, at any temporal point in the process of scientific method or scientific inquiry, we are only at a provisional stage of it and cannot ascertain how far off we may be from the limit to which we are somehow converging. So, according to Charles Sander Peirce, how to make our ideas clear. There should be analysis of the dualism of mind and matter, the subjective and the objective. True knowledge of anything depends on testing one's idea in actual experience. Consider what effects which might conceivably have practical bearings we conceive the object of our conception to have, then our conception of these effects is the whole of our conception of the object. Next one is John Dewey, father also of pragmatism. Education is not preparation for life. Education is life itself. So John Dewey is one of the proponents that applied pragmatism in education. So for him, learning by doing. So it's more of an experiential learning where education should be child-centered. Students engage themselves and explore their surroundings as they solve problems, learn language, and math concepts. He emphasizes on the identifying interests of the learner and following through those interests. A child's own instincts, activities, and interests should be the starting point of education. Education and life are interrelated, not separate. Children best by doing, by acting on the world. Continuity of experience is essential to both. That is why science really the core of science is banked or anchored on pragmatism, since science has a lot of laboratory activities, experiences, learning experiences that allow children and students to understand the lessons and concepts through experiences. Undergoing and doing of organism in environments, a matter of functions and habits or of active adjustment and readjustment of coordination and activities rather than the state of consciousness. Perspectival experience, personal, emotional, and temperamental, was philosophically relevant in work factoring into abstract and logical theories, meaning the perspective of the experience. We are different people, so we might experience different things. Manifested in particular social, historical, and cultural modes. Philosophy starts personally and then articulates further emergence from complex, symbolic, and cultural forms. Philosophy was not a rational bridge to transcend life, but was equipment for living. He has a critique on traditional views and positive account of experience. The personality, selfhood, and subjectivity, sensorial atomicity, wherein sensation emerges from engagement of minds, bodies, and their environments, including human language and culture. So there might be differences in the experiences of one person from the of different person coming from different places. Mind is neither static nor a substance. Reasoning is one function of the mind, not a product of separate faculty and purified of feeling. Experience is processual, transactional, socially mediated, and not categorically prefigured as rational or emotional. Experience exhibits experimental character, acting and being acted upon. It can direct primary or had a minimum regulation, little preparation or intent, and can be indirect, secondary, or non occurred due to intelligent action. It is method paying attention to where and how we start. The antecedents of pragmatism, induction, importance of human experience, and the relationship between science and culture. In induction, it's a new thinking. We have Francis Bacon, John Dewey, George Smith, and William James Hill, which they contribute in that it's a new way of thinking, induction, um, from the experience to a specific claim or specific truth concept, and then it's centralized on experience, the importance of experience in knowing what is true and what is not true. Sensitivity to the importance of experience in its relation to thought processes and personal development. So in pragmatism, we highly value the meaning and the effects of experience to a person, and the centrality of experience. People do not experience things as projection of a subjective mind and objective reality. Rather, we experience things as results from connection and continuity of experience in nature. Okay, according to Russell, children as natural organisms going through various stages of development. So in these developments, they experience different things and they give meaning to these things, to these experiences, depending on their level of development or on what stage they are already. Also, we consider science and society. According to Auguste Comte, help thinkers become sensitive to the possibilities of using science to help solve social problems. View social structures and relationships as capable of systematic study and controlled help usher in elements of social theory that influence pragmatism. According to Charles Darwin, reality is not to be found in being but in becoming. The origin of species, especially, gives one of the results since this is a result of experiment. So this is one of the evidences that we use for pragmatism. Descent with modification occurs in an interplay between organism and environment. Food supply, geographic condition, and presence of or absence of predators determine natural selection. And that's it for pragmatism and education.